So I'm Brendan Anderson. I am the founder and owner of Whatnot Games and also the game director. I made Star Racer. Yeah, that's me.
My name is Maximel. I am an artist and we worked on Star Racer.
Yeah, so talk about like where did the idea for Star Racer come from?
Yeah, so I was playing F-Zero because F-Zero is one of my favorite games. I'm a retro games collector. And so I just gotten an SNES at some point, and F-Zero is the first thing I picked up. I mean, I've like emulated it for my entire life and stuff too, but like I don't think I've ever owned it as a kid because I right at the tail end of the SNES. I did definitely had one. I played Mario Paint and all that, but then it was very quickly went into N64 era. So I don't know if I actually owned an original copy of F-Zero back then, but once I got my SNES recently, I bought a copy, and I was just playing it like for hours and hours and hours on my free time. I was trying to like get into the speed run strats of it, like learning about blast turning and all these other different techniques, and like I kind of got good at some of those. But when I was thinking about what games to make, I was actually making a different game at first, but I realized that that was going to take way longer because it's like an RPG tactics game, and it's like I don't have the money or time to do that right now, and I want to make more than just one game like in my entire life. So I want to think of a slightly smaller game to make. So I was like, I love F-Zero, I love the driving mechanics, and I was also playing Star Fox 64 at the time. So those two were just kind of rattling around in my brain, and I was like, would it be fun if we just like had the driving of F-Zero, but then like added flight so you could fly around the level and shoot people? Like that sounds fun, right? So I made a prototype in a weekend. It like yeah, like in 3 days, like just the basic driving, and then added flying. I imported a map, like I think it was Mute City from F-Zero because it's like on the sprite resource page or whatever. They have all those map uploads and stuff. So I was like, I'm just gonna put this in on the floor of the game, and no walls, no collisions, just like a picture that you can drive around. And I was just like having fun, like just driving around for hours and then flying around and stuff like that.
Now, for people who don't know what this game's all about, give us a quick elevator pitch about what Star Racer is.
You could think of it as F-Zero times Star Fox. So it's anti-gravity racing with flying, vehicle combat, and shooting lasers and stuff like that.
So, the gaming industry has evolved a lot since the original F-Zero and even the original Star Fox. Is it hard to replicate that kind of style with modern tools? Like, it's become more of a challenge, or is it easier because the tech's just so advanced?
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way. I mean, when I was first making it, I was like, do I want to go full 2D and then do this Mode 7 stuff and have to learn like a bunch of stuff that I don't really know how to do right now? Or I could fake it and just make it a actual 3D environment because you get that Mode 7 but like it's real, and then just put like 2D sprites in the environment. And so that's what I chose to do because it's like more in what I know how to do, and it's frankly it's easier to get started on doing that. The tools exist like to make anything you want. It's just like what is in your knowledge base to be able to make it happen. So yeah.
Maxim, so talk about your inspirations. Obviously, like your art is right out of the F-Zero instruction manual, as well as like some of the other Super Nintendo games. Like it almost looks very similar in style. Where did you draw inspiration from?
Well, as you can notice, I just took just a little bit of all the inspiration from a cartoon series called SWAT Cats.
I know SWAT Cats.
Yeah, or I would say, I don't know, just a lot of them. Some there, but just I was wondering if I could actually make it. And well, I saw the idea how it should look, and I just suggested it to Brennan once, and he just agreed, and we just got started to make it.
We can go down the rabbit hole on that show and how kids today will never appreciate the value that is SWAT Cats.
There was another series called Biker Mice from Mars, and if you remember the character named Moto, he had a sort of like a bionic hand or something like this. So I used this one as well for the inspiration. I am a fan of old games as well, so I was mostly into Sega Mega Drive, or whatever we call it in America.
Genesis.
Genesis, yeah,
Yeah.
this one. So I was a huge Sonic fan. So And if we're talking about PC games, I was a fan of Duke Nukem and Postal, and but mostly if we're talking about PC games, I was mostly into what do you call like point and click adventure games.
Yeah, I can tell like a lot of your style is it seems like an amalgamation of all those old games. I mean, like
Yeah.
the Sonic comic book, I remember like I can definitely see that from that. The Dragon's Lair references I can clearly see in some of and like and that was kind of the thing like when I approached Max, so I actually had another artist named Brandon who he's the one who did the vehicles and I can talk about kind of our process for those later. But he originally, I was like, I want to do everything pixel art. I want all the characters to be pixel art and stuff like that. And my other artist was like, I don't think that that's necessarily the best idea. I think people really would appreciate some more hand-drawn characters and UI and stuff like that. So why don't we find maybe like a comic book artist? And so I was like, okay. So he went and found a couple people, and Maxim was one of the people he found, and he showed me, his arts, and I thought the style was really cool. It was, like you said, reminiscent of the old F-Zero comic book and stuff like that. And so
just that whole generation, like that whole there was a time in videos for specifically video game comics, like in the 80s, that had a certain aesthetic look to them, and you've been able to nail that kind of aesthetic with your character design.
Yeah, and I think that's what like gravitated me towards Maxim's work is like I wanted that 80s, early 90s callback thing, and I think it just worked really well. And the other thing too is like, Maxim was saying he suggested the idea of Wildcats, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Because my philosophy, at least for this game, was I want to work with a bunch of different people and artists, musicians, whoever, who have really strong perspectives and ideas, and I just want to let them do what they do best. Like, I'm, yes, the director, and I'm pushing things together and trying to make sure that they meld, but I really just want people to like have fun with what they're doing and give me their best work. And so I just was like, you suggested it, let's do it, let's, run with it, and we were kind of off to the races. A
little bit different process than working for a huge company where you have to have multiple processes of approval before even something starts, right? We're just like, try this, and then you try it and you like it or not. Yeah, it's a lot different when you have your own goals and your own milestones instead of being a corporate developer.
Yeah, and that's why I think like it turned out to be very pulpy, and I think that also lent itself to that older style where those pulp comics were that style, and they were just like a bunch of these different things put together, and I think that's where part of the fun and unexpected nature comes out in the game.
You're a sound designer by trade. Like, why did you decide to outsource your music rather than try to do something yourself?
Yeah, well, so I did do some of the music myself. I came into the project fully expecting, okay, I'm gonna do all the music. And then you start making the game, and then there's just all these needs that pile up, and then you have to do other things, and then you have to start thinking about the marketing, and then you have to start thinking about the art, and then you have to fix bugs and do all this programming, and like, I'm only one person. I did end up, hiring other people to help me with all the other stuff, obviously, but it started off literally just me for the first 6 months. And this was like a 2.5 year project. And so I was gonna do all of it, but then I was like trying to think about like what style of music would best fit, because like, the F-Zero inspiration is obvious, so like I do a lot of 16-bit style music, and so the first version of this was I'm going to do all original F-Zero style 16-bit music. And then it kind of worked, but then I had this idea of like, well, we should probably try and modernize it, but I can't do rock. Like, I'm a rock and roll guy. I love listening to it. I love all that, but I can't play that kind of guitar, and I can't write that kind of music. I'm more of a orchestral jazz kind of person. And so that's when I had Grant Kirkhope. I was originally just going to have him do one track, and he did the title track, and I was like, okay, I'll figure out the rest later. And then I said, hey, do some more. So he did like 3 more. And then I met this guy, Mason, at an event, and he and I hit it off. We found out we were both from Texas. We both grew up in the same place, like, went to clubs and like, yeah, stuff like, it was crazy. And I listened to his music, and we were the same kind of music nerds, so I had him do a track, and it was awesome. And so all this stuff just happened where I'm like, I can't really focus on the music. I think other people will do a better job at the kind of music that this game needs. So I just had them do it. But yeah, I am a sound designer originally, composer and technical sound designer. So it was bittersweet to come to that realization of like, oh, I need to kind of let go of this thing that I love so much so that I can make everything else work. And I guess that's just part of, being the person in charge and having to make these decisions.
Yeah, I feel like it just, and that's a business rule in general. As you start, especially if you're starting a creative space, as you start to evolve, you enter a more managerial role and you're doing less creative, right?
Yeah.
But that's just an evolution of that. That's normal.
I was very happy that I did get to write some music for the game. So the title screen, I wrote the music for that, and it's based off of Grant's main theme that he wrote, but I kind of redid it and then changed it up and made it a little more jazzy. And then I wrote the mini game music. So if you play like the golf levels and the break the target levels, that's my music. And then I originally wrote, well, the title screen I wrote in 16-bit. The mini game music I wrote in like more modern samples, but then I had both of them recorded by live musicians, and so that's what they sound like now. So we did a Kickstarter campaign, and so this is like kind of frustrating for me, and it comes up now and not, I say that jokingly, it wasn't like actually frustrating, it was just like, come on, really? I had started making the game, and I was like 3 or 4 months in, and I knew I was going to do a Kickstarter, but one fateful Friday evening, Nintendo has a direct and just shadow drops F-Zero 99. Like,
yeah, I remember that. They did. They like to do that.
They didn't say anything about it up until that point, and then they just released it. I'm like, well, God, like, that great. The reasons I wanted to make this game in the beginning is, like, I loved F-Zero, and I just, like, always wanted an F-Zero that had multiplayer. And so F-Zero 99 was basically that. And so I was like, well, is there even a point for this game anymore? But like, that was just like for like 60 seconds I thought that. But then I was just like, all right, well, now I gotta make it like really good. So we did the Kickstarter and then went into early access. And one of the reasons for that was like the Kickstarter was successful and it was really great to have that money to be able to fund the development. And it also was not enough. As you probably hear time and time again, most Kickstarters, it's not enough money for the project to actually make it. I mean, I was gonna make the project no matter what, and it was gonna be in whatever state it was gonna be in, but I knew I needed to get a little more help, so I went to early access, and I also wanted to get people's engagement and get people playing it, see if it was fun, tune it, iterate it, stuff like that, and then made a little more money selling early access. That helped a lot as well. And then also, I mean, at the time I was employed, so I was using my day job to help fund the game as well. So even though the Kickstarter wasn't, funding as much as I needed to make all the things I wanted, I was still able to actually over-deliver on the Kickstarter because I had some of this other money coming in.
Yeah, scope is exceptionally hard when you're an indie developer because you don't have a limit. It's whatever you really want and don't want to do, so it can spiral out of control quickly.
Yeah.
Was your Kickstarter, because you only asked for original $20,000, and this isn't the case, it ranges from case to case, but was this, some people use a Kickstarter as a way to gauge popularity between an investor, like, oh, I raised $20,000, would you want to invest in, $100,000, whatever, shows that there's interest in the genre and the game. Was that the case for Star Racer?
Sort of. So I knew, because I had talked to people who'd done Kickstarters before, and the consensus was essentially that if you make money on it, it is nice and it is good, but it is best used as a marketing tool. So like, obviously, you're going to have to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver. You're going to, give people the rewards that they paid for, but it's really a vehicle to get more attention from other people to the game. And that is very much kind of what happened. And the unfortunate thing for me was that because I was fully employed at the time, I did not have the time to maybe capitalize as much as I probably could have on that in terms of like talking to investors, publishers, and stuff like that. I did have some conversations, but they ultimately fell through. And at some point I was like, all right, fine, well, I'll just do it myself. I'll release it. I'll get in as good a state as I can. And then we'll go from there. And now that it's released, I'm actually starting, and I no longer have a full-time job. This is now my full-time job. Now I have the time to go and pitch to more publishers. I'm talking to more people about, can we bring this to Switch, which I think is where its best home would probably be. I think like PC is great for indies and everyone and visibility, but like for me personally, like I've never like loved playing racing games on PC. I like console is kind of where I want to play my racing games. So I really want to bring this to Switch. And so that's where those conversations have been going towards now. Switch and then other consoles, but we're gonna probably first focus on Switch.
Now you have a plethora of just modes in this game. You have single player, you have split screen, you have 4-player split screen, you have co-op, you have a map editor. Like, I mean, like you have all like talk about like adding all those features. That's a lot of features for a small team to add to a game.
So when I first made the game, it was all me, and I don't like I have somewhat of a programming background. I worked as a technical sound designer for all the for Disney, Crystal Dynamics, Riot, and so I'm used to programming and I'm used to working with engineers. So I'm knowledgeable. I can make a game myself from scratch. However, I don't have a deep software engineering background. I've read a bunch of books on it and stuff like that, but I just don't have the deep experience that more experienced engineers have. So the way I had set up the game would not have worked at all for what it is today. I would have been like tearing my hair out trying to like cobble things together, and they probably wouldn't have worked. So eventually I realized that was going to be the case because I had like one script that was the vehicle code, and then I was just like adding everything into there, and then I was like making it do exceptions for different game modes and blah blah blah, and it was like totally unsustainable. And so I hired an engineer his name's Strider. He's great. He's like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna re-architect this whole thing so that you can make any amount of game modes you want. They're not gonna interfere with each other. You can have vehicle stats that can be adjusted and have exceptions, for each game mode, and all this crazy stuff. So he took like 3 months to do that, and once he was done, it was kind of like we were off to the races. I could just like because each event race is its own game mode technically, and so each game mode you can define a certain number of rules and all this other stuff. And so once he was finished, I just started making event races. I was like, this is awesome. And so yeah, if I hadn't done that, then the game would not be what it is now.
But talk about the decision for no online multiplayer yet anyway. Like, why did you just opt for just local co-op?
Well, first of all, I don't have online multiplayer programming experience at all. And I know that Unity has tools that let you do it, but my feeling was probably that I could like change what I have to use Unity's tools to make it online multiplayer, but it would probably be really, really bad. I mean, like Nintendo,
no internet
biggest,
well.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest companies in the world couldn't do it. Like, well, I mean, they can do it, but like people still complain about it. So where would that leave me trying to make a racing game? And then it would be like 1,000 times worse unless I like had a dedicated engineer who knows exactly what they're doing, who can set it up the way it needs to be set up. So that was why I chose not to do online multiplayer. Also because it's a fast game. The faster you have things that have to happen, the worse the online experience can get if you don't know what you're doing when making it. So like, and because like, I mean, I knew this from, working at Riot. I can't say, what we were working on, but like, you can imagine like everything that we work on has an online multiplayer component. And so I knew how bad it could get for teams with engineers who are dedicated to like just doing that full time. I'm not touching that. I could try and learn about how to do online multiplayer, and it will probably suck, or I could make a game. And so I chose to make a game. But I guess my conceit was that like I did want to have some multiplayer, so I wanted to do couch co-op. I know that's not as popular anymore, but like I'm a child of the 90s. I love couch co-op. I still like the peak of fun for me is Mario Kart with 4 players. Like, so that's just what I wanted, and that was hard enough to get to work.
It's coming back slowly. I think we're seeing a resurgence in it. Like, I think it's coming back. It's taken a while too, but I think it's on its way back.
Yeah, I think because as you have people my age, in their 30s, who are starting to make more games, and they just remember the nostalgia of growing up with friends coming over in the neighborhood and playing, then I think that's probably why that is.
Something that's been lost for decades and is making a resurgence today is, it's actually fun to have my friend with me next to me playing a beat 'em up. You know what I mean? Like that stuff that you don't get anymore because it's all remote. It's all Fortnite, Discord, you know, which is great. Like in it, you know, we're connected more than ever, but at the same time, it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta have that human connection. And you gotta have those human rage fests too. And those like and conversation.
Dude, the amount of controllers broken and names called for Mario Party was a particular standout. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to ask you guys, is the F word allowed?
I mean, I'll beep it because it's funny, but yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Well, I'm not really used to cursing English, actually.
I mean, we're not doing like Minecraft or Fortnite videos, so like kids don't watch our stuff usually. Our demographics are much older.
Yeah, I just grew up along with Mormons, so I just used to. They don't like it.
It's cool if you don't curse either, so that's totally fine.
Yeah, just not really often.
What's a big misconception about game dev, you think, from the general public point of view, or from like a high schooler's point of view?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is, I want to figure out how to say this because I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's like there seems to be this like, oh, game dev is easy, and why don't you just do this? And oh, it just takes like a few lines of code, and you could have made it 100 times better by doing this instead. And it's like the people who say that have zero, I mean, just zero idea of what game dev is like, and it's just ignorance. It's not stupidity, it's ignorance. I know that, you know, as people get inflamed online, you want to go, oh, you're just so stupid thinking that. It's not like people aren't obviously coming at it from a bad place. They want the game to be better. It's just game dev is so hard. I can't like begin to describe any artistic pursuit that is more difficult than making a video game. You have hundreds of systems that are interconnected with each other that if you change one, then like 5 others somehow change without you realizing it, and then you have bugs, and then you have to fix that, and then like, or like, oh, you change one variable for the vehicle speed over here, and then all of a sudden like the flying is messed up. Or like, there's just so many things you have to keep track of, and that's just in the code. And then you have to manage all of the art, audio, the animation. You have to then make it run well so that it runs fast. And so when someone says like, oh, if you had just like changed this one line of code, it's like, no, you can't just change one line of code. It's never just one line of code. Even when I think that, oh, I can just change one line of code, it's like, okay, now I'm spending like 20 hours working through this because it has unforeseen consequences. So that's probably the biggest.
I guess a lot of people think about game development industry. So a lot of people think so you can make a lot of money in doing this, or some people think it is going to cost very cheap to produce the thing, and they probably don't realize how hard it is technically to do this. And some people try to cheat or something, like just to use artificial intelligence or something like this, or
that's a big thing.
Some others just to steal stuff, you know. So just the biggest misconception about the game development industry is people don't really understand the whole, what do you call, like the whole difficulty, the entire thing.
Yeah. And speaking of AI, I mean, like even now, Greg,
it freaks me out actually.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
bad.
if you've seen the trailer, but which it's got a really great reception. I'm super thankful and happy for how many people alone have watched the trailer. But like, you know, I read every single comment because I can't help myself, and I know I shouldn't. And there's not a ton, but I've like seen a couple people like, oh, this is just AI slop. This is like, whoa, and it's like, dude, no, it's like, I mean, I hate
just people. It seems to me like, people just went crazy about this AI.
Yeah. Well, I want to clarify though. Like, I mean, I don't hate AI as a concept or anything. Like, using it as a tool to do specific things, like, I think is fine. But like, where I draw the line specifically is using AI to do the job of an artist. You know, I would, 100 times out of 100 prefer to pay Maxim to make another piece of art than to have AI generate it, because for me, I also, because I'm an artist, musician, and so it's like, I understand that art requires struggle in some form, and art is the most innately human thing I think we have. And so if you just have AI do it, it's not art. We call it AI generated art, but that's a terrible word for it. It's not art. So why would I want not art to be in my art project?
It's about the philosophy or something like very deeper.
Yeah.
It's just not about how it looks. It's just about, well, if you remember what Hayao Miyazaki told about AI, this actually matches almost the 100% of my conception of my thoughts about. So, and it's just like, it's disrespect to yourself, to humanity. And Japanese people are very conservative. They even actually use button phones or flip phones. I would like actually to have one.
I'm thinking about going back to a flip phone myself. Smartphones are they're getting a little much these days.
Maxim, I do want to talk about your art for a second. In the trailer, there's a quick shot of all these animals. Whose animals are those? They have to be real animals.
Well,
real pets.
There are my cat. There were 2 of my rats, but one of them died 1 week ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but it was all different dev pets. So
those were great. I'm like, there's no way those are just random animals. They had to be people's pets.
So I think that because we had I've had it's tough because I always say oh, I'm a solo developer, but I hire a bunch of people. Technically my company is literally just me, but I hired Maxim, I hired 3 or 4 engineers at different points, and a couple different artists for UI and stuff like that. So there ended up being a lot of people on the project, even though the company's just me. And so what I wanted to do is, as a thank you for them, working on this, and also in a lot of cases working for so cheap, because I did get a lot of, friends discounts and stuff like that.
It's a side hustle. Yeah, totally get the side hustle. Yeah.
So I was like, hey, send me a picture of your pet and I'll put it in the game. And so I think I sent Maxim 15 different pets. I was like, hey, let's put these all in one image together. Let's put them in a spaceship or something futuristic and fun. And then so he made that. It's all one image. So he drew that. And then when I got that, I cut out each different pet and made a portrait of them. And so in the game, when you unlock their vehicle, which is the cardboard box, I did that because we get Chewy orders every 2 weeks, and my cat just sits inside the box. So we designed the vehicle off that box, and you can scroll through the different pets, and it has their name, and it's just a little fun way to honor the devs.
It's I know that was one of the pictures that stood out in the trailer to me. I'm like, oh, there's got to be pets of the dev team. Just curious, can you elaborate more on why you left your AAA job, and was it not possible to do this game nights and weekends?
So I think it was possible under different circumstances. And what I mean by that is I had begun to suffer from extreme burnout. I was working on this in nights and weekends, and AAA game dev is extremely stressful. Just all the technical requirements that go into doing the job, and then dealing with all the personalities that you can deal with in some of these companies, and and then working on something that is not necessarily aligned with your passion, right? When I first joined Riot, I was kind of thankful because I felt like I got burned a little bit. I used to work for Crystal Dynamics. We were working on Avengers. Love Avengers. Huge Avengers fan. It was one of my dream jobs to be able to work on a Marvel title. The other one would be Final Fantasy or Zelda. But so I was working on a Marvel title. I was like, this is freaking awesome. And I put so much of myself into that. And then there were some business decisions that happened, and it had nothing to do with the creative decisions, but it dampened the public's perception and reception of the Avengers. It was the whole always online, microtransactions, live service stuff. It just totally got in the way of what the creatives were trying to do. And so the game really wasn't received well, and I felt like I got really burned, because I had put so much of myself into that, and people were just shitting on the game and all that. Which I still think the multiplayer stuff, whatever. But the single player campaign in Avengers, I think is still a really fantastic campaign, and I'm really proud of the work that I did on that. But so then when I went to Riot, I was not a fan of League of Legends. I knew of it. I had played it a little back in the day, but I got the job, and I was thankful that I didn't have to care that much about the IP that I was working on, so I could just focus on what the work was and not become so personally invested. But I didn't understand until after I had worked there for like 2 or 3 years that that's the other side of the coin that can contribute to burnout is when you're not aligned with the thing you're working on. It just like it starts creeping in. You're like, why am I doing this? Like, what is this for? What's the point? Kind of thing. So that was happening. The stress was happening. The stress of also working in nights and weekends was happening. I was started not getting sleep. My hair started falling out. I started getting stress hives and ulcers and stuff when stress was particularly high. So I had to go on a medical leave. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I need to quit because this is not sustainable. I either have to give up developing indie games or I have to keep working at Riot on stuff that I don't really align with. And so I was like, I don't want to give up doing the stuff I like for the stuff I don't like, even though there's the paycheck. And so fortunately, my wife was making enough money to support us. So we made the decision that I was going to leave my job so that I could focus on one thing, recover from the burnout, and, start getting my health back, basically. And, I go to therapy and my therapist was just saying, like, if you don't make this decision, it's going to be made for you. Like, at some point, your body might just fail, like...
Maxim, what's a big misconception for an artist, just in general? It doesn't have to be game related, could be comic related, animation related. What's a big misconception you think from a general public about being an artist?
Being an artist. Well, in my case, I would say if you would like to make some art, you just have to love it. You just have to be into that. Well, from my perspective, it shouldn't be just a work. It's just to be the way of life or something like this. So in this way, you're just not gonna burn out. So, but once the art became your work, actually, so one day you just probably gonna burn out just because you're just gonna hate it one day.
It can't be your whole life. It has to be a part of your life, but not your whole life.
It just have to be your passion. So, but I think just like the advice is gonna be like, just make what you love and just have fun or just enjoy it. So probably that.
So Brand, where can people go to find more information about Star Racer? Discord, Twitter page.
So where can you can find out more about Star Racer? So there's the Steam page, which I'm sure you'll have linked. Then we have a Discord. I can send you the Discord link as well. I think we have like 200 something members in there, and it's fairly active. Like, we just like hang out, talk about like changes I'm making to the game, argue about whether those changes are good or bad, and then I'm like, well, it's my game, so I'm doing it anyways. No, but I do love talking about all the stuff in the game with the community, and they're great. We have our Twitter and Blue Sky, and yeah, that's really mostly where you can find it.
Maxim, where can they go to find more information about you as an artist? Do you have an Instagram, ArtStation?
ArtStation, Instagram, probably this enough, but I got sort of like a profile or account on YouTube just to upload all the animation demos I've made so far. Well, what else?
What's it called? What are the names so they can find them? What would they Google to find those things? Maximel?
Yeah, Maximel. Just Maximel. You can find the Instagram and the other things. The ArtStation.
I think the ArtStation comes up the first thing when you Google your name.
I used to use Facebook one day, but I just
Facebook's on its way out.
Yeah, probably it's enough. Just if you're an artist, you can only use sort of like for publication, just like the ArtStation stuff, or maybe some similar, or the Instagram or YouTube if you make videos or something.
Yeah, I think they're all your name.